Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Ilene Winokur. I am in Kuwait. I lived here since 1984, and I'm presenting AI tools from the inside out, empowered students and teachers. And I bet you're probably wondering what that means. I'll be getting into that. So a little bit quickly about me. I am an EduMatch author, of course, with 2 books. Journeys to Belonging, Pathways to Wellbeing, and a follow-up sort of activity and lesson plan support book for teachers that came out last February. I've been a podcaster, of course, a presenter, and my sort of company since I retired from full-time work is Journey to Belonging, and it connects completely to why I am so passionate about AI in education. So I worked in education for more than 25 years as a teacher, as a principal, as a director of a pre-college program for foundation level English and math, and retired just before the pandemic. So I guess in some ways I was lucky, but in some ways I was struggling to say, oh, I still want to get in there and help everybody out. In the past year, I've been kind of away from professional work a little bit because I became a grandma to twins and a granddaughter almost at the same time from my son and daughter. So enough about me. If you want to learn more about what the work that I'm doing, you can see me on social media and also on my website. But what about today? So artificial intelligence obviously brings to mind a variety of concerns and social considerations. So we're going to start off with the things that we might wonder about on the negative side, because we're going to spend the rest of the time going through the things that I'm really pumped about. And in preparing for this presentation, I really wanted to make sure that I am empowering all of you with the kind of tools that you can use in your classrooms, know about, and be ready to use right away. But let's look at the sort of negative parts of it, or the things that we might be concerned about, like data privacy. So what kinds of parts of information or bits and pieces about us are they using? Obviously, if we're interacting with ChatGPT or other large language models, LLMs, they're picking and choosing and listening to us. And as you know, they were saying at the beginning in the interview and sort of the chat and talk, we've been using AI for quite a long time. We've heard a lot about bias in terms of where are the algorithms for the artificial intelligence, where are they taking the information from? So are they really taking it from the larger population or from specific populations, and how are they using that information? So is there built-in bias to what is happening? All these things that we need to be aware of. Where is the fairness? And for me, I'm all about belonging and inclusion. And so ensuring that our students feel that sense of belonging is all to do with not having the bias built in, the fairness. And so really taking a closer look, and we're going to do that in a few more slides. Then plagiarism and cheating, of course. What is plagiarism? What is cheating? All discussions that we need to have with our students and to think about with our colleagues and ourselves. The social aspect, are they spending too much time on the internet? Are we really involving ourselves in these sort of unnatural situations? Where is the balance, sort of the work life or school life or internet life balance? And then are we heavily relying on technology? Is that too much of a reliance on technology? And other concerns, feel free to put in the chat if you if you're, have things that I haven't mentioned. Of course, our user experience in education is really, really important. User experience is how we as teachers and how our students are interacting, what kind of benefits we're getting from it. Are they listening to us in terms of our experience? Are they thinking about the kinds of things that we need? What are those kinds of things? What does that look like? And so, of course, a positive user experience really has a high impact on engagement, students being involved with the learning, and of course, most importantly, the learning outcomes, because we're not here for entertainment. We certainly want our students engaged, but we don't necessarily want them just entertained. There have to be learning outcomes out of all of it. So how do AI tools help us with that? We'll talk a little bit more about that. And a user-centered approach that ensures that the AI applications meet our needs. So prompts and assessment. And I guess part of the reason why I called, I titled the session this way was that sort of the inside out, was thinking about how I was interacting with GPT and engineering prompts or coming up with prompts that would really give me the information or the output that was helpful to me. And was, how many iterations of prompts did I have to go through before I got to what I really needed? And then, of course, what I did was pull it off. And this is a variety of situations that I was using it. And I was started to think, well, this is really a cognitive and a critical thinking exercise. So in terms of personalized prompts and personalizing our learning, our teaching, it's the ability of students to be able to also figure out how they can work with prompts so the information or the output that they're getting is helpful to them. And then thinking about what comes out from ChatGPT so quickly, and what do we do with it then? Do we just copy paste it? Obviously, if we're talking about cheating and plagiarism and so forth, the student needs to be interacting with it, just like I do. I go back and, Grammarly helps me, but I also go through and say, well, maybe this isn't the way, this doesn't sound very clear. And so I'm not just taking it for granted that what ChatGPT puts out is going to give me what I need. Adaptive assessment, which I'll talk about also in a little bit more detail later. We can personalize assessments and personalize to a certain extent feedback, but more to assessments to meet students where they are. Again, this is the inclusivity and making sure that we're meeting students. For 20 years, I taught and was involved with teaching multilingual learners or English language learners. So this was really, really important to meet them where they are, but not to dumb down the curriculum. And to also be able to adapt the language in order for them to understand it at a reading level that was either at or above, slightly above their ability. And then for feedback, of course, feedback from different AI tools can help with mechanics and writing style, but is it really at a point where it's human driven and relational, which the teacher is going to give in terms of personal feedback, in terms of knowing the student really well? How much can feedback be given by an AI tool? So although technology can and should enhance many parts of the assessment and feedback cycle, the act of giving and receiving feedback is a particularly human activity. So one of the concerns initially was, is AI going to take over teaching? Are they going to be, the next teacher in the classroom? And obviously that's not happening, and it's not going to happen, because that human-centered part is really, really important I mean, even if we're just talking about belonging and inclusivity, an AI tool, so far anyway, I don't think it'll ever get to that point, can't be that personal, can't get to know all of our students to the level that we do. And, it's a dialogue back and forth, a conversation. And so one of the things that sort of came to mind, and you might find it a little bit unrelated, but I'm going to tell you a story. Back it's about 20 years ago now. I'm older and my children are older. They're all in their 30s. My oldest son was in high school. I think he was a freshman, and he was starting his history or social studies class. And we were having parent-teacher night, and the teacher sat us down, and she was getting to know all of us, and she said, "I just want to let you know that the first 2 weeks of school are going to be all about study skills. We're not going to learn any history, or we're not going to touch the curriculum. For the first 2 weeks, we're going to do study skills. And don't worry that your child is going to be behind in the curriculum, because by teaching the study skills that I'm going to give them, they will be able to help themselves and learn much faster. And so they're not going to be losing this 2 weeks of study." And so again, you might say, well, that's kind of unrelated to what we're talking about, but the connection I made was, we really need to, and I know in the US, schools started already, and maybe some of you already did an introduction to the different kind of ed tech tools that you're using, but it's really important for us to be able to get into this idea of what is artificial intelligence? How is it built? Where are we going with it? What are the kinds of tools we were thinking of using it? And so I'm going to take you through a little bit of the background. It's something that we all need to set the basis for. You don't necessarily have to set aside all of your curriculum in order to do it, but these are discussions that we need to have with our students and our colleagues, schools and districts, to make sure that we're prepared for what's coming. So this is where we go to learning about artificial intelligence. What I've done is I've put together a whole bunch of resources, and I'm going to be watching my time, and I'm hoping I get through all the slides, but I'm promising you at the end of the presentation, I have a QR code and the link to a Wakelet collection of everything that's in this presentation, including a PDF file of the presentation. And so I'm going to quickly go through things, but I want you to see how many resources and guides are out there to support you in your efforts to get to know what's out there, and also to be more comfortable with it, and then be able to discuss it with your students and your schools. So ISTE is very important. They've had their AI group, as Dr. Sarah mentioned at the very beginning, for a number of years. And they have now, with General Motors, put together these hands-on guides. I discovered them a couple of days ago, and they're wonderful. They're actually hands-on AI projects for the classroom. And as you can see, there's a guide for elementary teachers, a guide for secondary teachers. There's one for ethics in AI, and for computer science teachers. So again, all of these are included in the Wakelet collection, but they take you through some simple projects to be able to introduce students to the whole idea of artificial intelligence. And as we know from ISTE, for those of you who are familiar with ISTE, they are really the foundation for standards for what we do in the classroom in terms of ed tech technology. And also they're very much involved in having ed tech tools abide by certain standards in order to be ethical.
Are you ready to revolutionize your professional learning? It's time to ignite your passion with EduMatch. Inspire, connect, and grow. Access over 150 professional learning facilitators and explore a wide range of educational topics. This is not just professional development, this is a movement. Discover how EduMatch can support your school or district. Connect with us today and make a world of difference for your students. To learn more, visit us online at edumatch.org.
So speaking of ethics, let's take a look at ethics and AI in education, something that everybody should be concerned about and is probably already concerned about when you hear about, how do we use it so that it's ethically used. So I have included in the Wakelet collection a number of guides, a number of suggestions put together by educators for educators that take you through how to kind of put together, in case your school or district doesn't have a policy already in place, to be able to start talking, having these conversations. And so AI policies help students understand what's acceptable and what isn't, and also for us to know what kinds of things should be acceptable or not unacceptable. And then using AI for all assignments that can hinder our learning, making sure that students are aware of the fact that their dependence on that really slows them down from their learning, that it shouldn't be a crutch, it shouldn't be something that they totally rely on. And that when students use an AI tool, that they should be aware of the AI generated content, and that it might unknowingly actually include plagiarized material. And I'm including a case study in here that you might want to do with your students, which sort of talks about that. And I'll get into that in a minute. And of course, we always monitor for transparency. We monitor to make sure that what we're using is being used ethically, and is actually produced or created ethically, and also staying up to date as AI develops, which is so fast, so rapid. Some of the things that I read about, I didn't even notice several months ago. So we really need to keep up with that. So I put together this sort of idea for a case study project. And I have several articles, things that came up within just the last week or two. I actually shared them with my children because I felt that they were really interesting in terms of the kinds of ethical dilemmas that we should be talking to our students about and thinking about ourselves. And you probably have read, if not, this will be interesting for you, that there were two articles that I found that talked about OpenAI. Obviously, the company that created ChatGPT is facing a lawsuit claiming that OpenAI used copyrighted books without permission to train its AI systems. So there's been, in fact, the recent Hollywood writers' strike talked about artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence. A number of publishers now are saying we won't accept anything that is being created or written through artificial intelligence. So this is really a topic that would be of interest to students, I think at any age. The second article talked about a group of 17 authors that have filed a class action lawsuit against ChatGPT because they feel that basically their work was stolen and used to build up the algorithms for ChatGPT to get better at what they're doing. So the companies that were helping build OpenAI and ChatGPT were using those. So this would be on the one side, consider this. So consider the ethics of this, consider the idea about this. And on the other side, I read an article just this past week that Silicon Valley is training data giants Scale AI, which caters to a lot of the tools in business and in education, like OpenAI. And Appen are hiring poets and writers with humanities backgrounds, including in Hindi and Japanese and other languages. Obviously, because ChatGPT is to a certain extent used for translation, so they want the translations to be better, just like Google Translation had to get better with time. And hires are asked to write original short stories to feed AI models. So here we have, on the one side, for a long time, we don't know how long, OpenAI and others using works that were copyrighted without letting anybody know. and of course means those authors were not getting compensated properly for that use of it. And then now we're seeing that maybe they've seen the light and seen that maybe they can't not get away with it anymore, but that's unethical, that what they were doing was not right. And so this would be a way to sort of look at these 2 case studies or 3 articles and figure out, have students discuss, figure out what do we get out of this? Where do we go with this? What's right? What's wrong? Where does that put us in terms of what we use, and to talk about plagiarism and cheating and so forth? So that brings that whole conversation around. So this was just an idea. Of course, the articles that are higher level, but if you feed them into ChatGPT or another LLM and request it to put it at an elementary level or a certain grade level and so forth, and then what I did was I took it, I looked at it, see if it made sense. Sometimes they used language that was a little too less academic. It was too familiar. And so I changed it around and was able to use it afterwards. So obviously I took what I saw, and you'll see some of that in the Wakelet collection. And anywhere that I used an AI tool, I have mentioned what tool I used and where I got it from, because I think it's very important that we are transparent. So I'm watching my time. And just, I'll talk a little bit now about specific tools. This particular visual that you see, the graphic, was created in Canva by their magic tool. So just to have an idea of the kinds of things that we can do with the creativity that we have for the tools. And so the first one I wanted to talk about is Book Creator, which has been around for a while and wasn't really using too much artificial intelligence, but now has added different features. Again, the link is in the Wakelet collection that I'll give you at the end, and also videos and things like that about how the artificial intelligence works with that. Book Creator is wonderful because no matter what level the student is at, they can tell a story because they have the visuals, they have the language, and now you can use ChatGPT to get, so that they make a suggestion to start with a sort of initial draft, which actually I did with my 3rd grade students many years ago. We put together a sort of like a fractured fairy tale, and we went around the room and each student gave a sentence. And so you could start with that and then ask ChatGPT to sort of give you some feedback about it, help you with it, just for students to start to get introduced to using ChatGPT, what that looks like. And the objectives of the lesson you can see here. I won't read it all out to you. Fosters creativity and imagination. Of course, it's interesting because they're choosing their visuals, they're writing the story, they're putting a book together, they can publish it when they're finished. And so, and it's Book Creator is integrated with a number of other tools. And as I said, it's been around a while, so it's been vetted by teachers and also vetted by organizations like ISTE and so forth. If you're using digital tools for problem solving and narratives, so 2nd graders learn the importance of story elements, all those kinds of things that are in your standards. You can unpack them and see what kind of tools you can use in order to be able to make, engage them more, but also have them put together a product that they can be proud of. And this could be a nonfiction, this could be a creative story. So there's Book Creator, that's one that has incorporated some AI tools. And you'll see a number of these that have their tool that they have and they've had for a long time, but now they're increasingly incorporating AI as an assistive tool to be able to help students and being more inclusive, actually. So that's Book Creator. Okay. CurePod is something I've found out about recently, that they've started talking about recently, where teachers can create lesson plans. You can use ready-made templates, so they have a lot of things on their website. Again, CurePod's information is also in the Wakelet collection. And students can join these lessons by going to a website. By the way, the tools that I'm mentioning start for free. Some of them are free for educators. Some of them have district-wide plans and so forth. So you need to go to the actual website to find out if it's free or totally free, or if there's a cost involved. But I tried to find tools that were accessible to teachers and also looked like they initially you could sign up and test it out for free before you could go ahead and either recommend for your school to purchase it or for to invest in any money in it. You use a QR code or join code, which many other tools use, and students can learn in a fun way. Not that they don't learn in a fun way from your own lesson plans, but what's nice about CurePod is you're also able to track student progress. It helps you track their progress. And part of what we're talking about in terms of AI is the time saving. So I use AI, I use ChatGPT in order to help me save time, but I'm actively involved in everything that I'm doing. So for me, I've kind of overcome that idea of, oh, this feels like cheating, by really wondering how I could make it better, how I can increase the amount of information that I'm putting in order for them to be able to, or in order for the tools to be able to be helpful.
EduMatch Publishing is dedicated to inspiring a love of reading in children one story at a time. Our books are designed for all ages and are written by educators for all students. Our goal is to transform your home or classroom into a world of reading, where students can explore and learn. As the publishing branch of EduMatch, we're proud to offer books that are created by experts in the field of education. Order your books today and start a new tradition with the special kiddos in your life. Visit our website to learn more.
So teacher and student empowerment, which is what all of this is about. So Canva, for those of you who are or are not familiar with Canva, it's a creative tool. Actually used it to make this presentation, and it has now added, I think over the last couple of months, has added these magic tools. And they're really amazing. As I showed you in an earlier slide, I created that graphic. You can use that for images, and the images, like Adobe Firefly, they can look like an artist's image. They could look like a photographic image. Of course, the important part is that what you put into the prompt or the description is significant enough and specific enough so that what they end up producing is what you are able to use. Again, that thought process that you or your students have to use in order to be able to get what they need out of the use of the AI tool. So they have Magic Image, Magic Writer. You could, start writing and then ask it as, it's sort of like a Chat GPT, but incorporated in Canva. They have a Canva Assistant and the image, and now they have a video generator, which I think is still in beta, which you can try. And so all of these things, a Magic Edit, sort of like a Grammarly, if you want to use that. But Canva is free for educators. So if you sign up for an account, it's free for you to use. and your students can use it along with you. And so I talk a little bit about LLMs because obviously large language models are ChatGPT, which I've mentioned numerous times during this talk. Bard came out, Google came out with Bard. I haven't used it very much, but there are a number of educators like Alice Keeler who has put out information, and she has some helpful videos and tips and things like that for you to use, and there are others. And Gorilla by Microsoft. Microsoft is supposed to be coming out with Gorilla. I don't think it's out yet, but that will be the name of their sort of ChatGPT, their large language model. And it's important to understand where large language models get their information. How are they able to come up with the response to your prompts so quickly? And it goes back to that whole idea of its mined a lot of millions and billions and zillions maybe of information that's available on the internet has been fed into, and so the algorithm can be biased, which is what we talked about at the beginning. We want to make sure that we use our voices as educators to ensure that the tools are not biased. So yes, thank you. I don't know, it's R. Schaefer Carr. Thank you. Yes, you can get a Canva account for the entire school, which is really, really wonderful. And Canva is constantly improving their tool. And so if we're talking about, now I'm sort of talking about AI for assessment and feedback, which I mentioned at the beginning, but I wanted to go into a little bit more detail. So this is something that I really looked into. There is a tool which I put the link in the Wakelet collection, but I didn't really talk about it here because I haven't used it or really looked closely at it. It's called Formative AI. I think the link is there, but it's formative.com, I believe. And they will create assessments for you. And of course, that's a real big time saver, but it also can help you keep the data collected. You know, the more we're able to save time with the administrative kinds of things that we're doing in class, which we're always complaining about. There are always things, paperwork and data, which is really, really important. Especially in our classrooms, we want to make sure that we keep track of where our students started, where they're going, and where we want them to be. And then, you know, how do they compare to, in general, of course, there are state tests, there are different kinds of standardized tests and so forth, you know, which are sort of there, we have to deal with them. How are students doing against those kinds of outcomes, you know, the standards and things like that. So these kind of assessment tools can help us gather that information instantaneously almost. So if we use a tool like Formative, they do that, they keep track of that for you. Now, obviously, the teacher is going to input the information, the teacher's going to create some of those assessments, but you know, like quizzes, obviously, is an AI tool. You put in the information, you can put it together, but then quizzes comes up with the quizzes for you. So again, we talked a little bit earlier about personalized feedback. I guess what we really need to look at is how personalized can that feedback be without the teacher. So keeping that at the back of your mind when you're looking at personalized feedback. For what? I mean, is the personalized feedback for a specific grammar error that you're looking for, verb tense or something like that? Or is it something that you need to really sit down and have a one-on-one conference with the student? And that's where the teacher comes in. So there's only so far that feedback especially can be automated. Grading, of course, can be automated if you're putting together a quiz or some kind of test in using a tool. Then the grading can be taken care of. Obviously, if it's some kind of short answer or things like that, teacher needs to input the information or what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And then if there are any questions by the student about whether it was accepted or not, sitting down with the student one-on-one and making sure that you have a conversation with them. AI-powered adaptive assessments adjust their difficulty and content. So if we're talking about English language students, we're talking about different abilities, different levels in your classroom. Often you have students with specific needs. And so being able to use a tool that can help you organize those assessments. Again, those discussions have to be with your team, with your school, about how much you're not enabling students, but how much you're supporting and scaffolding without making the work so much less difficult that it's really not helping them improve. So keeping track of how they're doing is really, really important. And that data collection is really, really important. Oh, I'm glad to hear that you just signed up for one of the tools. Excellent. So I wanted to sort of wrap this up because I only have a few more minutes. I wanted to make sure I take any of your questions and to give you a chance to have time to make sure that you can get hold of the Winokur collection. These are just a couple of the books I happen to know of and know about the authors. I follow them. And so the AI Classroom by Daniel Fitzpatrick, Amanda Fox, and Brad Weinstein is a really, really good primer. Obviously by educators, for educators. That's what's really important here. AI for Educators by Matt Miller, who wrote Ditch the Textbook. That's his latest book. Again, more information, more ideas. And the last one by Mary Howard. She's actually, I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York, and she's from Grand Island, New York, which is not too far from where I grew up. So, and she has written this book. Again, a teacher in the classroom, somebody who's been in the classroom for many years. So those are really, really important. Again, there are a lot of books. And Marcella, don't worry, I'm giving you the grand link right now, which is to, you did, Alice, that's great. Oh, we should get together when I go back and visit family if you're still living there. Okay, so this is really important. On the right side of your screen, you'll see the Wakelet collection. I will put the link in if you don't have the ability to grab that QR code right now. Just give me a second and I'll put the link in. Also, just for resources for people to follow, and there are a lot more. So if you know of people, please put them in the chat, people that you follow or yourselves who are good go-to people about AI. So Rochelle, who's giving several presentations, and you saw at the beginning, Rochelle Dene-Poth, Dan Fitzpatrick, he has a YouTube channel, and he also is on LinkedIn and has a newsletter. He's called the AI Educator. Amanda Fox, and she is amandafox.stem on Facebook. Elizabeth Bostwick, who's British and also has, she and Dan Fitzpatrick are both from England. She's always putting things out there. There are groups on Facebook too, who have been started by some of these people. Matt Miller, who I mentioned as the author, Mary Howard, Brad Weinstein, of course, our own Dr. Sarah Thomas, Vriti Saraf, who you could follow on LinkedIn, who is all about Ed 3.0 and into a BitChain and all of those kinds of things. So let me, I'm just going to get the link and make sure I can put the link in the chat. Just a second, in case, I know sometimes you don't have access to the QR code. And so this is the link to the Wakelet collection. And if somebody wants to go with it, oh, okay. So Melissa Sadler-Holder put in the chat. She runs a weekly newsletter called Teaching with Machines for Teachers. Oh, awesome. It's called Teaching with Machines. I'll make sure, by the way, my Wakelet collections are always added to as I get more information. So I will be sure to check out your website, Marissa, and add that to my Wakelet collection. So if somebody can make sure that you're able to access the Wakelet collection, sometimes there's a glitch with the link. So yeah. Any questions? Let me know if you have any questions. You can put them in the chat. I'll stop sharing my screen. Have you had time to grab the QR code or the link? Oh, link is good. Great. Yay, success. Yeah, thank you all for attending, and I hope this was helpful. Again, there's way more information in the Wakelet collection than I could put into a 40-minute session. I really appreciate everyone being here, and thank you so much, Stephanie, for being this, for making sure we recorded, and for all the work that you're doing during the sessions today.
All right, thank you. And it looks like we are right on time. So we have about a 5-minute break per se, or at least run around wherever you are, and then come right back because the next one will start at noon.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye, everybody.